Personality's back.
Oh crap.
All right, we've been sitting here for days. Everybody's just smoked.
We're chained underneath this table.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Shh. Don't tell them that.
Sorry.
He doesn't feed us.
Bunch of cannibals.
Ken Williams asked, hello Patreon, welcome. We introduced ourselves on the Monday video. This is the Wednesday video, so go watch that one.
Wow, I'm gonna be in real trouble when I get home.
You know.
That baby's doing great for 48 hours out in the wilderness.
He only eats like once a week.
I seen him breastfeed it a while ago. It's the weirdest thing I ever seen.
Cover up with a blanket here.
Oh my gosh. All
All
right.
Bring the goats.
Ken Williams asked,
Just run that video.
bring the goats. How would you honestly convey the necessity to start preparing to family and friends without looking like a crazy prepper? Richard, go, followed by Mike.
What I've done with family and friends that think I'm a little loopy is push it as, if nothing else, an insurance policy. You have home insurance, life insurance, auto insurance, health insurance. For all the family that say they're coming to my house, I tell them you need to buy food insurance. And that allows you a possible chance to get into my home, get food, bare minimum 3 months. Anybody can do that. They can store it in their closet floor. It doesn't take much. That's how I've done it. They may still think I'm a little loopy, but I know for a fact Sir will have done it because I've confirmed it. That's how I do it.
Cool. Insurance policy. And then
Insurance
Mike, you were
policy.
saying?
Food insurance.
Basically, how I look at it is you're investing in yourself. So, what do you need to function? Shelter, food, water. Well, the more of that you have, the longer you can survive. So you're just investing.
Right.
Just
Okay.
an investment in survival.
Yeah.
The way I've broken into that conversation with people, you know, being a storm chaser, I've literally been asked, what's the best storm shelter? Who builds the best storm shelter? So the way I always bring in the point on this one is people will ask me what the best storm shelter is. They're not preppers or into preparedness or, you know, pick your term.
Yep.
People will spend $10,000 on a really top-of-the-line storm shelter. They've got a 1 in X trillion amount chance of a tornado actually hitting their house, but they're willing to spend that amount of money into something that may never happen, unless you live in Moore, Oklahoma, then...
Right, right.
Just in my lifetime, I think the number is 7 tornadoes.
Yeah, good investment.
3 of them being very powerful.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the storm shelter thing right there, like, people will spend that amount of money, but you could put aside that amount of money spread out over time, a couple $1,000s, you can get a year's supply of food, no problem.
That's a great point.
And, you know, there might not be a tax rebate or something like that on it, but you can't eat a storm shelter.
Yeah.
That's how I got my food storage up. Every time I went to the store, just bought a little bit extra.
Yeah.
And next thing I knew, I had a pantry full of cans of whatever.
Yep.
And I ate it. So,
So you know it, you had a week for the food.
yeah.
Yep.
Actually, when I first moved to where I'm at now, I took all of my food stores, put them all the way into storage unit over here, had no food in my other house, got a month's worth of food in a week over there, and brought that over here when I moved the second time.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's just no reason not to.
Yeah, I am at the point now, and this I'm digressing, and then we'll come back around to the original topic. But when I say store food, stack it to the rafters, I'm buying about 25 buckets worth of food a month right now. That's a year for a person, right? And again, today has proven, man, there's a whole lot of people that I need to be mindful of, right? And so, like, I'm not kidding when I tell you guys stack food to the rafters. Like, I'm completely intentional with that. Scottish guy, we're cool.
Okay.
Yeah, target shooting. So, all right, back to how do you not look like a crazy prepper? Well, when the Scottish guy next door fires 2 rounds, you don't all go over there and swarm him. Get on the ground! Sorry.
We totally could, though.
Oh, we totally could. This is a very well-armed group of individuals.
2 arms.
You are well-armed.
Yeah.
Travis, what do you got?
The government tells me to be prepared.
Amen.
Amen.
I use that in all my classes with my family. I'm like, because they're either, they already think like me, or they're the polar opposite, and the polar opposite needs somebody to tell them what to do.
Right.
I can open a flyer and go, look, you're supposed to have this.
Per the federal government.
Great point.
And then when they're like, okay, well, would you give me a list to help me with my 3-day kit? I give them a 3-month kit list,
Right.
and they fill it, and all of a sudden they have 3 months worth of stuff.
That's awesome.
And then the first time they run out of ketchup, and they go to their box and they open it for ketchup and go, oh, well, that was nice to have.
Yep.
And then by then I'm just ready to set the hook.
There's like a stigma between like the whole high-speed survival ration that you can just peel open in the middle of a hailstorm and eat underwater.
Right.
It's rice, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be expensive. I want to interject real quick on what NWA Prepper was down there saying, and a quick plug for Pastor Joe at Viking Preparedness, because Pastor Joe has talked about this in several videos about the government telling you that you need to be prepared and you need to collect this kind of stuff. And this agency tells you need 2 weeks, and that agency tells you need 1 week, and that agency tells you 3 weeks. And by the time it's all said and done, you're supposed to have over a month's worth of food and water stocked up per the United States federal government.
Yep.
That means triple it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At bare minimum. I
At
mean,
bare minimum, yeah.
because if something happens, a little bitty ice storm, which was a big ice storm, it shut down 250,000 people
Yep.
for 2 weeks. No food, no water, no flowing gas,
Yep.
no none of that. And all of their resources came from one truck a day, bringing in pallets of MRE water that physical people had to try to deliver.
Yep.
And what a greater opportunity to go, hey, you remember that?
Yep.
Here's the list. Don't let that happen again.
Well, see, the natural disaster aspect of it is, like, for example, in Florida, with what we're doing in Florida and what we're fixing to do in Nebraska. People think you're crazy. You're just a crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy. Yeah, so, and I have food. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So, but we're 5 months later, and there's still 100,000 people homeless or displaced in 5 counties in Florida. Not in Honduras, not in Croatia, in Florida, and this is something I've been talking more about too. There's these 2 camps that either the government's going to take care of you, the government's going to show up and take care of your every women need, or the government's going to take care, or the government's going to show up and enslave you with 5G and cook your guts, man. They're not showing up at all. They're just not showing. They don't. They're not coming at all. It's not one or the other. It's neither.
Yeah.
They don't have the
Government
capacity.
wants to take care of the government.
That's the
Yeah.
thing is they're only going to look out for their interests.
Yep.
You know, the Florida doesn't look bad to tourists right now because they've taken care of that part.
Right.
Yep.
That's the income. That's the revenue they're getting. They're not
Something-
looking at the stuff
sorry.
in the background.
Something I witnessed too, I worked security for a local military base after Katrina when they were busting them up.
Yep.
We were supposed to have about 1,200 people. That was it, 'cause that's what we could house. We ended up with 13,000 in 48 hours.
Holy
And
cow.
I felt so sorry for these people. They were, they had nothing.
Yep.
Some of them didn't even know where they were at. They're like, where are we?
Yep.
And some of them that came in on the buses, the bathrooms weren't working. They're all Greyhound type buses, and the floor was awash with urine and waste. And it was just so.
Don't get on the bus.
I was like, yeah, don't get on the bus. But to see that, I don't want to be
Yep.
in that situation.
Right.
And that was just a big eye opener too, to see these are Americans
Exactly.
that are being bused. They thought they were going to Houston. Well, they ended up where I live at a military base and did not know why they were there, where they were at, and didn't know when they were going home.
Yep.
The stories they told us of the Superdome, the Thunderdome, or whatever it was, were scary.
Yep.
It really was. And I mean, that's just one of the reasons.
Yeah, I'll give you a real world scenario. Central Arizona, pretty bad snowstorm. Truck for a Safeway, they get their daily delivery system. Truck, one entrance on the parking lot. Jackknife, stop the parking lot. 2 hours, no produce. truck was there for 3 days.
Wow.
Just that
It's just
simple.
selfish
Yep.
and irresponsible, man.
Yep.
Really, to not have food.
Well, I mean, that's like the storm that hit Houston last year-ish, question mark. In North Texas, when I was still working there, there was a run on fuel. There was no fuel.
Yeah.
It wasn't that there was no fuel. There was the perception of no fuel that led to the actuality of no fuel. And it's teachable moments like that where it's like, listen, guys, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that maybe you ought to have fuel ahead of time, have a little bit of food ahead of time, right? And I think where sometimes the forest gets lost for the trees and vice versa is you come to somebody who's new and you go, you got to have a year's worth of food. And they're like, I have $14 left in my bank account. How am I supposed to do that? Like, what are you talking about? I got to have a year's worth of food. It's like, let's start with something attainable. 2 weeks.
Ain't y'all got no cows? I'll just go hunt.
You can,
Yeah.
you can say anything you want with that hat on. But, you know, start with something that's attainable, like 2 weeks, a month, then work your way from a month to 3 months to 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, so forth, so on. But not everybody, most people. I mean, what's it, the average American citizen has less than $400 in the bank,
Yeah.
right? Like 90% of all American citizens have less than $400 in the bank. And it's like, and I'm not knocking people who have less than $400 in the bank. And I've been there.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, listen, I've been there. I've talked many a time, man. We paid all of our guys, paid all of our bills, everything on Friday, and had 16 cents left in the bank account. And all weekend, the kids were like, "Can we go see a movie?" No. "Can we order a pizza?" "We'll make one." "Can we have a?" "No, we're just gonna hang out at the house this weekend."
We're gonna be buddies today.
Prayed all weekend, and Monday morning the phone rang off the hook. Tuesday, all day, phone rang off the hook. Wednesday by noon, I had to turn it off because we'd booked up 6 months worth of work in 2.5 days. But we had to get to where we had 16 cents left in the bank account for me to humble myself, throw myself on the floor and go, "Father, come on, please, you got to make something happen," which is a whole nother story for another time. But I totally sympathize with people who are like, I just don't have the income. But that doesn't mean you don't do the thing. Like you got to, I think, start in bite-sized pieces,
Right.
and then snowball it from there.
A week's better than nothing.
A week's better
And
than
then you
nothing.
get a month. It's better than.
Yep.
It's
A meal's better than nothing.
Yeah,
very good.
and
One thing at a time.
I think how to not look like a crazy prepper. Don't be a crazy prepper. There's a great way.
Yeah.
Like, other than him, he can get away with it.
You know.
Leave your tinfoil hat at home.
Yeah.
I mean,
Buy one of
everybody
those.
here
That's
today is
easy.
pretty much normal. I mean,
Yeah,
we all have our own quirks, you know. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody's got
there's
their
a
own quirks,
standard deviation, but
But I mean, we're normal people. I mean, you know, we have jobs. We do the normal everyday things.
Says you.
Families. You know. I mean, you know, being prepared doesn't mean that you have to have, you know, 200 AR-15s with 2 million rounds of ammo.
What?
I mean,
Since when?
you know,
new recommendation, guys. Go ahead.
I mean, you know, by all means, you should be able to defend yourself. But for some people, that may just be a pistol and a shotgun. That's cool. That's all you need. But TJ has said this a number of times in a number of his videos. You know, how many times in the past year have you had to pull a trigger to defend yourself? The likelihood of that is 0. How many times have you had to eat in the past year? A bunch. How many times have you had to drink water in the last year? A bunch. Those are the important things. It's not about being crazy. Don't act like crazy. Just like Richard was talking about, it's an insurance policy, you know?
How many, show of hands, how many people here are carrying a firearm right now? Okay.
I have two.
Show of hands, how many here at home have buckets of
Just
food put up
opposite me.
somewhere? Okay.
I don't have enough hands for all the buckets.
So, right, Debbie? I need, like, Vishnu doesn't have enough hands for all the buckets. So, it doesn't mean you don't have both, right? But the firearms solves the immediacy, the right now life and death situation. But what a lot of people fail to see because they're suckling on the teat of the government system, I'll say, is that the long-term scenario Yeah, getting pretty close, huh? I think it's pretty good phraseology. The immediate need you might be able to solve with a firearm. And by the way, if you're one of those werewolf preppers, find a different channel. But the long term, a werewolf prepper is somebody who preps only firearms and tactics so they can go take what they think they need from somebody else.
Yep. And they're
So-
out there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They have. I have literally heard people say, yeah, you go ahead and collect your gold and silver and your food. I'll take it all with my lead.
I don't think you will. I don't. Yeah.
You might get one of us.
Calling friends.
It would be a
friends.
bad
I'm
day.
calling
It
them.
would, it would be a bad day.
And that's
Yeah.
kind of transitioning. That's something I talk quite a bit about. Is you might one-on-one, you might get me. You might. You're not getting me and all my friends. You're just not. And I don't care how many of you there is. You know, hypothetically speaking, you're just not. And my circles get bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, help you if I mobilize all of them at the same time, right? And so.
That's a bad day.
Yeah, so that lone wolf prepper mentality, and especially the werewolf prepper mentality, I just won't have anything to do with. But most people look at
I have this vision of the gates of Moldar. in
Right.
Lord of the Rings. Just line after line after line.
I'll bring the horns.
right. So you don't want to look crazy. Don't be crazy. Make a logical argument with somebody. And the last thing I'll say is this, and then you guys can chime in if you want to. If not, we'll shut it down. At some point, you're casting your pearls before swine. Stop. Just stop and live the example. Okay? My wife was not on board with prepping for 5.5 of our 8 years together. I didn't apologize for it. I just kept doing it. I looked her square in the eye and I said, listen, babe, I love you. I'm doing this. The end. You can be mad about it if you want to, or you can get on board. I'd love to have your help. My mom thought I was crazy for a long time, to which I said, Mom, I've seen stuff you haven't. I'm doing this. I would love it if you'd get some food too, so I don't have to take food out of my kid's mouth and put it in yours, because I'm not gonna. That's not happening. And I love you, Mom, so how about instead of you starving to death, you stock some food up on a fixed income, right? And so part of it is having those difficult but logical conversations with people to the point that they're either going to get it or they're not. And if they're not getting it, even if it's your mom, your dad, your cousin, your uncle, move on. Move on. Find a new target. And then the people that you really want to reach, be the example. Like, be the example.
One thing I want to add, people are always worried about guns. I've always thought beans before bullets,
Yep.
Yeah.
because it's like one of you said a while
Band-Aids.
ago, you've got to eat.
Yep.
Chances of there are cops that go whole careers that never fire a weapon,
Yep.
you know, but they ate every day.
That's right. Yeah. Say a 20-year career, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
28 to retire.
28 to retire. So let's think about that. That's 30,000 plus meals. 30,000 plus meals. 60,000-ish pounds of food.
Yeah. And they
Never once fired their
a shot.
weapon in anger.
Never.
Never once fired their weapon
Once a
in anger.
year at the range.
Once a year at the range,
Pretty
right?
much, yeah.
So, cool. Anybody else got anything to add?
Well, I was going to say a lot of it boils down to, I make the argument of personal responsibility. You know, this is, especially as a mom, this is my responsibility. And if I'm talking to somebody else, especially if they're parents, I'm like, you have a responsibility to your family to prepare for whatever may come. But it also boils down to a personal conviction. Like you said, if they don't have that conviction on your heart, nothing you say is going to really get through them. It's going to have to either, you can plant the seeds all day long, but it's going to be up to
Yep.
somebody else to make that grow.
Yeah, that's the parable of the sower.
Yep.
If that seed falls on a bad field or an unprepared field, that's not your fault. You just need to spread that seed out there. So
Not worry about how people are perceiving
Funny
you.
how it all comes back.
it's funny how it all comes back together, isn't it? Okay, awesome. Gordon from the APN, Kim and Steve from Prepping in Progress, Mike from Mike,
Hi.
Richard from Richard, Travis the NWA Prepper, Mike the Okie Storm Chaser, Hobias Josiah, Hobie 909, and Bear of Bear Independent. Look at this. You want to talk about a cool gift? Look at that. You see that? Look at that. Look at that. That's a cool gift. Gordon, hit the button, please.